Welcome to Jane's Place, where dreams learn to fly. Season 2, the Strength Series. If you are new to Jane's Place, welcome. If you joined me last season, thank you for continuing the journey with me. For those of you watching this podcast, you see a picture of me from the summer of 1995. I was just promoted to division president at Frito-Lay, the highest ranking woman at Frito, and the first woman in a president role. At 36, I was at the top of my game, and it's pretty evident from the look on my face, the glass of champagne, and the cigar that I thought I was somebody important. And maybe I was. But within 6 months, there would be a reorganization at Frito, and my position would go away. I would move into a role that was clearly a demotion, and within 2 years, I would leave the company. From hero to zero. From my vantage point today, the story of why I got demoted is not very insightful. What is insightful is that I did not have the tools to deal with this failure. I didn't realize that it was just one of many bumps in the road that I would have in both my professional and personal life in the years that have followed. I didn't realize that this was just part of my journey where failure and success are two sides of the same coin. I didn't realize that I would be a better leader and stronger person on the other side of this. Honestly, it hurt like hell and shook my confidence. So in season 2, I talk about passion again, and I ask most of my guests about resiliency and how they manage during tough times. Because it is not if we will have failure, it is just when. And when the win comes, and it will, do we have the tools to learn and grow from it? Thanks for joining me for the Strength Series. And spoiler alert, 30 years later, failure still sucks. On today's episode, I'm talking to Kristy Lewis, the passionate and driven founder of Quinn Snacks. Kristy and I met when she first relocated to Boulder over a decade ago. She moved to Boulder to be a part of the incredible ecosystem of entrepreneurs in the food space that call Colorado home. Join me as Kristy and I share the ups and downs of running a company. To learn more about Kristy and her favorite comfort food, please go to janesplace.com. Well, let's shift gears now and talk about what I love about Jane's Place, which is we're going to start talking about what you're most passionate about. And the idea that came to me on this was, as people talk about what they're passionate about, it just brings out this, like the core of who they are. And so much of what I'm trying to do in my work as a mentor is have people try to find the core of who they are. And so through a series of interviews that we've been doing in season 1, and now you'll be in season 2, I like to start with passion, and then we're going to segue a little bit into resiliency, because I'm really intrigued with how our passions and what we're great at really help us get through times that are tough. So let me start at the beginning. What are you most passionate about?
Gosh, I mean, there's so many things, but I think I've been doing Quinn for 15 years, and the whole idea around that was to help people eat better and really change how they feel.
How did you first come up with the idea?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'll try and make this short, but I grew up in the 80s and we didn't own a microwave, and I had to ride my bike to my best friend's house to make Jolly Time popcorn, microwave popcorn. And I've always been obsessed with food. And then in my early, I think it was like 19, I was in New York City. I was working at in the day and going to school at night. Couldn't afford anything. Went to Union Square Farmer Market just to observe. And there's a big disconnect of like how your food is grown and what is on the shelf in the grocery store.
Right.
And so my now husband, then boyfriend, he got a job in South Florida, and we went to South Florida for a couple of years, and Publix. And I was walking through Publix. I hated my job. I was at Palm Beach Illustrated magazine. I hated it. I wanted to be a journalist, and that was the job that I got. I was so excited, and it just wasn't what it was for me. And came home. It it was a horrible job. I came home crying like all the time.
Oh gosh.
And I watched, my whole vice was watching, I love movies, watching movies and eating popcorn. But when I went to Publix to get popcorn, it was Paul Newman's, which was pretty good, and just all junk. And so I was like, wait a minute, there's such a disconnect here. Like popcorn should be good. It's a whole grain,
Right.
just real butter. So I started experimenting. We had a microwave and I made Parmesan and rosemary popcorn. And I think I was at like a doctor's appointment when they had magazines back then. And I was flipping through a magazine and it was saying how you can make popcorn in a paper bag. And so I went home, put the popcorn kernels, got organic popcorn kernels, put it in the paper bag, put it in the microwave. It popped up like beautifully. And then experimented with all sorts of flavors like maple and sea salt and Parmesan rosemary and butter. And I realized like, wow, if I can do this, like this should exist, right?
Right.
And during that time, popcorn lung started to come out and like all this, carcinogens leaching into your, bloodstream and causing cancer. And so I felt like, gosh, if there is a better way, like we should be able to do this for, friends and family and for the community. So fast forward 9 years later, because there was no perfect time to start a business. We had absolutely no money, no time. I was pregnant with Quinn.
And you were back on the East Coast by then,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So we moved from Florida up to Boston.
Right.
My husband got a job at IDEO. I was working at a gaming company called Harmonix, which I absolutely loved. The founders of Rock Band.
Oh,
And I got really sick with Quinn. I had to take a leave of absence during my pregnancy. And all I did was watch the Food Network. Like I had to go home to my mom's, like Food Network, and that's all I did. Just like watch Giada, like everyone. I was like, hey, I'm leaving and I'm either going to culinary school and going into the food industry because I've always loved food and cooking and everything, or I'm going to start this microwave popcorn company. Just, pick a path. I realized that culinary school was totally out of question because it was so expensive and we couldn't afford it. And then when Quinn came along day 3, I was like, oh my God, I'm on maternity leave. This is amazing. Like 3 months? Like, this is like,
I just had to have a baby.
this is like this perfect time. And I hit on like bed rest forever. So I'm like, just like so ready to do something. And I always told my husband, I was like, okay, well, if the door keeps closing, I'll go back to Harmonix. I love it. It's like, I called my boss and I was like, every month I'd be like, hey, I'm not ready to come back yet. Like, And then finally in February, he was born in August. In February, I called him. He was the founder. And I was like, so I started this company on maternity leave and the door just keeps opening and it just hasn't closed yet. And I told myself that it was just, I'm going to keep going if it doesn't close. And he was like, it's like, you should go pursue this. You should do it. And so, 15 years later, I've had every door close on me, by the way, but you just, somehow we just plow through. So that's kind of how Quinn started. We named the company after Quinn.
Right.
And in 2016, we launched into pretzels. And then 2019, we launched into the peanut butter nuggets, which really put us on a different trajectory.
Do you still have the popcorn? Because I remember the first time I met you, I had the Parmesan rosemary popcorn.
So we don't. We had to disco it during COVID. We had major supply chain issues. So we sourced paper from Germany because we couldn't find paper over here that was going to biodegrade. So we sourced it from Germany and then we had someone over here make it. And then we just had major issues. And it's so expensive. It's like, talk about a supply chain nightmare. You have to pack the oil and the spices and the microwave popcorn, bring it together and have someone kit it. So we felt like we couldn't focus on the microwave popcorn and get that margin that we needed and also our pretzels. So we're focusing on pretzels. Not to say that we wouldn't bring a version of it back. I'm really hoping we can, but it probably won't be microwave popcorn. It's so intense to make. And the industry, it's like it's a $800 million industry. 30% is really in Walmart.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, but it was a kind of a segue to get in to this. And then I learned so much about I didn't know anything about the food industry, about business, about change, supply chain, all of that. So I think it was microwave popcorn helped me meet very instrumental people in my life to get to where I am today. And I felt like that was just where it needed to start. So I felt like it was every product has the time. I think.
Well, you've had so much success with Quinn, and the brand is so well known. It's I wouldn't say is it a 15-year overnight success, I guess is how you read, but maybe talk a little bit, if you're comfortable, with kind of the ups and downs of your journey. So when you had this great idea and you really see this space in the market and you're like so passionate about it, so excited about it. Let's talk a little bit about the ups and then maybe a little bit about the downs, and then how do you get back to the ups again?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ups and downs. And it's funny because when we first started, my husband was still working at IDEO, and he'd come home after a really long day, and then we'd work through the night. And the real Quinn never slept ever. He still doesn't sleep. But we would be working, I think for the first year, 24/7, just around the clock. My husband, his name's Coulter, so I don't have to refer to him as my husband. But he bought me one of those headsets, because we didn't have earbuds back then.
Oh, right.
And I didn't even have I had a BlackBerry or a flip phone. So he bought me a headset, and I would just walk around with Quinn and the baby Bjorn, talking to everyone that I could, because I was on a wild goose chase to create this,
Right.
absolutely nothing. And so I think there were these highs of just go, go, go. We're doing it. We launched on Kickstarter. That went really well. We got some funding. But I mean, the lows were so horrific. I think I had postpartum with Quinn, but I didn't really even know it, because you're so focused on creating this business. And I have I'm not doing anything to I'm doing all of it. I don't have an in-between. I'm really bad at that's something that I'm working on. So we were all in. I mean, doing shifts at Whole Foods for when they allowed you to do demos for 8 hours a day. We do those for 8 hours a day. We bring, Coulter would take Quinn, and then we would swap, and he would do demos and I'd take Quinn. And he was working a full-time job still at that point. So it was really, really hard. And we put all of our savings in. It's your typical founder story.
Right.
Max out the credit cards. I think we saved $10,000 or $15,000, threw all that in. And it's just so stressful on your, can we pay the mortgage? How do we do this? Can we pay the babysitter? But I think in the early days, you're just so excited to be building something.
Yes.
Right.
Did you know anybody else that was a founder or in the food business?
So I did, actually. It's so funny. I used to work at this, I grew up in Connecticut, and I worked at Schoolhouse Nutrition on the Post Road in this crazy little nutrition store. It was my first segue into the natural food space. I was, I think, 18. Worked there full time, went to school. I had a very untraditional schooling, college-wise. And Brennan Sinnott and Kelly Flatley grew up in my town. They started Bare Naked Granola. Kelly came in to try and pitch the owner of Schoolhouse Nutrition the Bare Naked Granola. I remember her coming in, and I was on freshman soccer, and she was varsity, so she's 4 years older than me. So I had known her growing up. She's really sweet. And she came in, she tried to sell the granola. And I was like, you need to take this. This is amazing. And the owner was like, no, the granola is not going to sell. And it's so funny because, it did.
Yeah.
It did well. So I knew that they started off in a kitchen in a town next to ours, and she worked, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. before the other folks came in to actually bake their goods. So I knew of that working. And so Chris Mears, do you know Chris
Of course I do. I know both of them.
Oh, Emily's one of my best friends. She's amazing. So Chris was out in Boston when they were doing I think it was Expo West or Expo East.
It was Expo East, used to be in Boston.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I met him. I hadn't seen him in a while. And I called him and was like, hey, I have an idea. I have a crazy idea, but I'm doing it. And he's like, oh boy. He's like, you're trying to talk me out of it. Don't go into this space. It's so hard, Kristy. And we were walking through Expo East floors, and Quinn's 3 months at this point, and I have to go pump. So I'm going into the bathroom, doing all that thing, come out, and he's like, are you sure you want to do this? And they were at the booth, and they were doing Evol.
right.
And Chris started with, at Bare Naked, and he was driving all over the country, and then Brendan, brought him to Evol. And they were, at Expo East, they were hawking burritos out of the cooler. And I was like, yeah, I totally want to do this. This seems awesome. But he totally tried to be like, you should run the other freaking way. And I was like, nope, I'm running straight in. So he did warn me. But so yeah, so I had Chris was so helpful and Brendan was so helpful. And I've had so many calls. I remember one call with Brendan. I called him about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, actually. I was at an event Emily put together in Denver, and I remember leaving early and calling him on the elevator down and was like, I'm in a lot of trouble. Like, this is not going well. We're running out of money. Like, I think my investors are going to tank this business. Like, it was not good. I was like, I don't know what to do other than just keep going. And he gave me some really good advice. I don't know if I should share it. But he was like, you can keep going and hope for the best, or you can just let it totally tank and buy everything back for like, pennies on the dollar. Yeah. I was like, okay, like both of those options like seem like good work. And he's gone through so much, and Chris has gone through so much, and so many people have gone through so much, especially in Boulder. I mean, it's amazing art community here. But Chris actually, I want to say, introduced me to John Majori and John Maggio.
Oh, yes.
And I felt like I was calling John Maggio more times than I could count during a week. And Coulter and I were living in Boston at the time. And no one understood food in Boston. Like, this was 2010. Like, they were like, oh, that's nice that you're making a popcorn company. Like, they just didn't get it at all. And we couldn't get the right funding partners. We didn't have the right ecosystem to support us. So when I kept calling all these people in Boulder, and finally I was like, we need to move. Like, it's calling us.
Right.
So we packed up. We had an intern who came, and my nanny's boyfriend. She was Quinn's babysitter. We hired him. He was an actor, and we were like, you're going to be great in sales. Like, so yeah. Also, we hired him and an intern, and then my sister's best friend, CV, who did ops for us. And we all moved out to Boulder from Boston. And since then, all three of them left and moved back to the East Coast. They're all still in food. But they were with us for about 7 years, all of them.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
But I mean, so there are definitely, there have been really like amazing highs. And we used to joke, and I'm sure you've experienced this, but we used to be in the office and we'd get a call like, Whole Foods would be like, oh, we're going to bring you into a region. We'd be like, oh my God, it's the best day ever. And we'd just, be riding high. And then like 10 minutes later, we would get like issued a piece of paper of like there's a trademark lawsuit against you.
Yes.
And like, they'd be like, oh, well, that's great. And then you just like hit rock bottom. It's just like this for like, I mean,
It's hard.
it's so hard.
Like, you really have to be resilient. It's so funny because I was just giving this analogy to a good friend of mine. I feel like sometimes I'm a fighter in the ring.
Yeah.
And I'm in the ring and I'm just getting the crap beat out of me.
Totally.
And you're just like, but you're in there and you want to win. And you're just beat up, and you go to the corner and somebody puts smelling salts under you. Like, and you're like, okay, I'm going back in.
Totally.
And you go back in and you're just getting it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, get back in the corner, and somebody puts a big thing of cold water over your head. And then you go back in again. And it's like, it's so hard.
It's so hard. And then you become like oddly immune to it.
Yes.
And then there's at least for me, it was like, okay, I ride every high and then every low. And I'm kind of like an internal optimist, or I have been. I think the last couple of years have really kicked me.
Keep going. You got to be an optimist. You have to be an optimist.
But total optimist. And then you get into a stage where you're like, okay, you can't ride every high and you can't ride every low.
Yes.
So you kind of need to figure out the middle. And then you're like figuring out the middle, and you're in the middle, but then not that you're melancholy, but you're like, okay, just, riding all this stuff. But then you get to a point where the middle is also not a good place to be, because you want to ride every high.
Yes.
You want to ride every low. Like, that's
And
the
what wants
point.
to be like
No
this?
one wants to be in the middle. So that was kind of an interesting epiphany. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do the whole up and down. It's exhausting. Like, just ride in the middle. But you don't want to ride in the middle.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't feel the low and the high as much as we did in the early years, because it does mess with you. But yeah, it's hard. But you just keep going. And the fighter thing is really interesting, because you get beaten to like a bloody pulp, and then you're like, okay, I'm back.
I know. And it's just like, you just can't believe.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about when you have a low point. Like, how do you get back up? Is it like you're waiting for the smelling salts, or do you need something like the high to happen to bring you back up? Or is like, what's your kind of mental game when you're down, or maybe after 15 years, because you've seen ups and downs, okay, it's down now, but it's going to come back up. Like, how do you think about that?
Totally. And I love that you just said that, because the mental game, I was on a panel once and I was going through a really hard time, and someone asked me a question and I was like, it's just one big mental game that we play here.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to get back in the ring over and over again, to hear no over and over again. Like I've pitched to 200 plus investors, more than 200 plus, like VCs, PE, angels, and you sell your soul. You're like the dream, and you're just so passionate. And to hear no, I mean, sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, it's just another no. You can't take it personally.
Yeah.
It's all meant to happen the way it's supposed to happen. And I think for me, this whole 15-year ride, I mean, I have read every single self-help book. Man, like it is kind of a joke. I could have like a degree in self-help books. Listen to every single podcast. Like, I mean, Oprah's, when she did her whole, I forget what it's even called. I want to say it's Super Soul Sunday, or what is
Something like that. I remember that's been.
I remember just folding laundry and listening to that for like hours on a Sunday, like listening to everything that I could just hear and see and read, and went through episodes of, meditation and not drinking. And I don't really drink anyway, but it's just like you're just
Anything to change it, to mix it up, right? So yeah.
Anything that could help me feel or do better,
Right.
would be totally game. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just, again, going back to the earlier discussion that we had about the chicken soup books for the soul. Even when I was little, I would read them, and those stories just lift you up. Like you're not alone, because this is a very lonely industry, especially in our world. And it just reminds you that everyone has done this. Like you're not alone. Like you can do it. So it's those stories of inspiration that I think have gotten me through. And then of course, our incredible industry.
It's so interesting about trying to change things up. I was just recently with some friends in London, and we were talking, and I'm like, God, I need to do something different. I need to do something different. And I'm like, oh, I've been wearing the same perfume for 40 years. Maybe I need to change my perfume. I mean, like, like that's going to make a difference.
It might, though.
I've been wearing Beautiful by Estee Lauder since I was like 22 years old or something like that. And I've never wanted to change it out. And I'm like, I feel like I need to do something different.
What did you buy?
I didn't buy anything yet. I'm still kind of stuck, because I don't know if I'm kind of scared.
No, it's a big change. Sometimes you just have to make that.
Yeah.
I'm really big on quotes, and I have them like all over our house. My kids absolutely think I'm crazy. But there's one that we have right by our door, and it's I got it at Moxie a couple of years ago. And it's nothing, if nothing changes, nothing changes, nothing changes if nothing changes. And it's like the whole idea is you're going to keep doing what you're doing if you don't change something.
Yes.
And you don't change it. It could be so little as, buying a new perfume. But sometimes you get stuck in your way of like, oh gosh, I want it to change. And it's like, nope, it's not going to change if you keep doing what you've been doing. Like you have to make a change for it to change. And it's so silly because like, duh, of course.
Right.
But sometimes you just need to see it, and nothing changes if you don't change it. Which I'm kind of in that cycle right now. It's like, yeah, it's not going to change if you don't change something. So I think it's so good.
But it's so scary though, right?
So scary.
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, that's the thing where I always say that I like change, but I like change that I create.
Yeah.
And so many things that change in our lives, whether it's relationships or work or whatever, are brought by somebody else. And it's like, I hate that kind of change. So how do you take control of change?
Yeah. Totally control freak. Have you read the book, Michael Singer wrote it, The Surrender Experiment?
No.
So that one really changed my life. And I read it twice now. And I actually think I need to read it again. But this whole idea is like, the universe has your back. And sometimes you just need to surrender and listen and observe, and things will come in and out, and you have to be okay with that. And I think there's been so many times in this journey where I've tried to control everything and it's backfiring. It's like, oh my God, well, this isn't working. And it's because I'm trying to control it and I don't want to let go of it.
Yes.
But the universe is like, no, you need to let go to grow into something else and something better. But you're too scared and you're like, at least for me, type A control freak, I'm like, no, I can't. But anytime that I let go, it will either happen the way it's supposed to happen or that I wanted it to happen.
Right.
But I was controlling it, so couldn't happen, or something else will happen and I kind of go this way. And that's okay too. But the moment that I realize that just surrendering, it does happen a lot quicker. It's the whole like what you resist persists.
Yes.
And it's so true, at least for me. What I resisted for so long just kept persisting and I couldn't get out of that cycle. So it's an incredible book. You should read it. I need to read it. I'm probably going to read it tonight.
I'll definitely get
It's a good one.
Well, I could talk to you forever about this. This is so funny. We were just reflecting earlier how we've known each other about 12 years but have never had the opportunity just to sit down and talk about things. And I'm so energized by not just the success of what you've had in business, but more importantly, just your outlook. I mean, it's just so engaging and exciting. And it makes me want to like get back in the ring again.
I don't know. Yeah, it does. It's just you keep getting back in there. And I think going back to like what your earlier question of what invigorates you and what are you passionate about, it's creating change.
Yeah.
In your life and others' life for the better so they can live their best life. And at Quinn, we went through this whole cycle last year. It was about your vision and your mission, which I never really understood the mission and the vision could be in one.
Right.
But our vision at Quinn, at least, I kind of went deep for 2 weeks and I was like, what is this? Why did we do this? Why did we do this? And it's really igniting everyday dreamers with this idea that we want to make sure that we're there to help fulfill them, to showing up for them in their time of need. If they're, working around the clock and raising a family, but they're pursuing their dreams, we want to make sure they can grab something to fulfill them, to satiate them. If they're, like Cole, who wants to be a professional soccer player, my third, like, how can I fuel him during his day? How can I show up for him so there's something to satiate him, to make him feel good so he's not feeling bad?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll be in rooms and I'm like, I can't believe I make pretzels for a living. Like, what the hell? But this whole idea is like, no, we're there for them. Like, we're there for people who are pursuing their dreams so we can support them so they can show up to be their best. And that gives me so much energy because in order to create a product like that, we focus a lot on the ag side, which also brings the energy because you're trying to create change on a systematic level in agriculture. So I think for me, it's just making sure people can live their best lives. And if you feel better, you can do so many great things. And real food makes you feel better. Like being gluten-free, I've been gluten-free for 20 years now. And I grew up, my mom didn't know anything about this. We had like Cheese Whiz. I mean, we had brown bread. We weren't allowed to have Wonder Bread.
And that was a big step 20 years ago, right?
But it's funny because growing up, I always felt really sick. Like I'd get migraines and my stomach would always hurt. And I'd always, in high school, I would stop in the middle of the hallway and keel over because I had so much stomach pain.
Wow.
And now that we know so much, I have a lot of autoimmune issues. And so I really can't eat dairy and gluten and like all sorts of things. But I feel so good. Like I feel amazing. And it's so unfortunate to know that, I spent 20 years of my life feeling bad. And now I feel incredible. And I don't want others to go through that. Like there is a better way of eating and there's a better way of sustaining. And I like to think that we have a little bit of part in that, creating a better for you pretzel. So that's the whole idea, is like making people feel good so they can show up as their best.
I love that. Well, I think that might be the perfect way to end our time together, is just this concept that you can, like through your work, make a difference in somebody's life, whether it's Cole or yourself, or just like, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up into trying to solve big things that we forget like the little things are the things that really like make it all happen,
Yeah. Like, it's just a little thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Little things can change your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristy. This is so amazing. What a great discussion.
You could probably tell from this interview that both Kristy and I are the type of people who don't live life down the middle. We are riding the highs and the lows, which sounds a lot like riding a bucking bronco. And having been on that horse many times, I promise you it can hurt like hell. I really appreciated Kristy's self-awareness about how she shows up in the world and the recognition that the path of an entrepreneur can be a lonely one. And maybe sometimes we are just not on the right path. I really loved her saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. Which leads me to a few questions for us to consider. First, are we aware enough when a door is opening for us to take advantage of that open door? Second, when do we know it is time to change things up? And finally, where do we turn to not be alone? If you watch this episode, you can see that my dog Earl was by Kristy's side the whole time, not saying a word until now. I'll turn the mic over to Earl, who is a sponsor for Season 2 with his Happy Hug Box.
Hey, Earl here, Chief Hugs Officer at Jane's Place. After joining almost every episode, I discovered my passion, and that passion is giving hugs. H-U-G-S, hugs. I also learned something pretty important along the way too. When things feel hard or uncertain, and sometimes even when life is exciting, words aren't always enough. But showing up for someone is. And by adding a hug, you say, I care. So I've started a hugs movement to kick off 2026. I just know the world can be a better place if we are generous with our hugs. But since I can't be everywhere, I've created Earl's Happy Hug Box. It's a special gift box curated by me, and inside there's a comfy, life-size plush that looks just like me. I call him Earl Jr. Plus a few other fun things are included too. Now, if someone came to mind while you were listening or watching today, this might be for them. Or might even be what you could use right now. You can learn more at janesplace.com/Earl. But for now, I'll leave you with one of my Earls of Wisdom. Show up, hug often.
Special thanks to my amazing producer, Aditi Joshi, for her partnership in creating Jane's Place and all her hard work behind the scenes to make Jane's Place so special. I am also grateful that my Chief Hugs Officer, Sir Earl Grey, has a real voice thanks to my good friend, Jake Dawson. And Jane's Place feels like home with the music from an amazing musician, Tim Cook. Tim gave us permission to use the Subdued song, Them Figs, as our upbeat theme music. Tune into the next episode of Jane's Place, where dreams learn to fly.